Okay, we're going to design for the web now. And this presentation has a bunch of terminology, and it's more than just design. It's to get you acquainted with what you need to do for making images for the web and how to use Illustrator and Photoshop for this purpose. To begin with, when you design for the web, you always use only 72 pixels per inch. If you use a larger pixel per inch, number of pixels per inch, you will just have too big a file and it's wasted. So why use graphics? Well, you want to convey information and to clarify your organization. This is really important, and of course to make your website look pretty. So where can you find graphics? Well, definitely you can find them on the internet. However, I have to caution you that when you are doing that you might be infringing on somebody else's copyright, and it is stealing. So you should not do that. You can also use purchased clip art collections, but again, you have to check the licenses to make sure that the images you are using can be used for that purpose. The best thing to do is to use your own images because your original art is the best. Your own drawn images, your own photography, you can scan them the way you want, change them the way you want, and they have your own personality. So let's look at the different graphic formats. There's your GIF artwork, which is from CompuServe and stands for Graphic Interlacing Format. Your JPEG, which is Photos, which stands for Joint Photographers Group. And your PNG, which is developed by Adobe and stands for Portable Network Graphics. And it was developed to replace GIF files, but it didn't do that. And the SVG file, which stands for Scalable Vector Graphic and is used with Flash and XML. Let's look at GIF files. It's indexed color. What that means, it's 2 to the 8th power, or 256 colors. Its size can be limited very easily, we'll show you, and the color lacks smoothness though. It has something called non-lossy compression. So the software actually compresses the file. And what that means is nothing is lost in the compression. The good thing is one color can be made transparent. And animations are made with this particular format. This file is best for logos, text art, and non-continuous art. Logos because you usually don't want a background on a logo. Okay, let's look at JPEGs. It has something called lossy compression. And that means that when you compress it, some of the information is lost. An example is your flesh tones. If two colors are very similar to each other, as you compress it, it'll just throw out one of the colors and make it the other color. The best thing is you can adjust the compression. I usually go for 60% or 6. So remember, the less compression, the higher the quality will be. The more compression, the less quality. And so you have to think of what you're doing. I mean, if you're doing x-rays, scanning x-rays, you're going to want a higher quality. So this is good for full color, continuous tone, and great for photos. Let's look at PNG. It has something called lossless compression and has two formats, PNG 8 and PNG 24. And you can save partially transparent pixels for a feathered or soft look, an alpha transparency. Up to 256 levels of this, from totally transparent to totally opaque. Now the PNG 8 not surprising, is limited to 256 colors, just like a GIF. And it offers good compression. The Ping 24 allows for millions of colors, similar to a JPEG, but the compression isn't as great. And the Ping file does not have the function to do animation. Let's look at the SVG file, the Scalable Vector Graphic. The World Wide Web has specifications for this, for a standard two-dimensional vector graphic language for the web. Okay? And it works well with HTML, JavaScript, and it uses XML to save high-resolution graphics. It is scalable in a browser, and it's useful for gradients, animation, and for filter effects. So let's look at this. JPEG or GIF? Okay, this is a JPEG. This is a GIF. Look at the difference. JPEG or GIF? The continuous tone here tells you it's a JPEG. The flat tones here say GIF. GIF or JPEG? Again, flat tones, not as many colors. GIF. This one, lots of different colors. JPEG. So, planning your website, make sure you follow good principles of design. Research at least 3 websites you like to get ideas for layout and color. Even when I sit down with a client to do a website, I ask them to bring me 3 websites that they like. And that way I get into their head. I can see the color schemes they like, the navigation they like, the design they like. Then I proceed to choose 5 to 6 colors to work with, and I write down their hex numbers. And you're going to want to make a folder for the hex numbers, and we'll talk about hex numbers later. You want to make up a mock-up of your pages. And I write down the file names and URLs, target, and the message on these mock-ups. And that way I don't misspell file names, and which is one of the more serious problems you would do. Okay, so web elements consist of banners and title plates and buttons and bullets and rules and background titles, sidebars, images, and thumbnails for your images. Here you go. Okay, so when you're creating images for a page, you want to consider design and choose appropriate characteristics like resolution, size, image type, and placement. And you want to design for the worst case scenario, probably 800 by 600 unless otherwise directed. And you want to create images for a page that make it easy to navigate. Remember, we move our eyes from left to right. So you want to use graphics that will move the eye to where you want to go. And you want to put critical information probably in more than one place so people can find it. And you want to keep scrolling to a minimum. So let's look at scanning artwork. For photography, you want to have quality original. That's in focus, good contrast, good color image, and a large enough original so that it's not fuzzy. When you are doing vector art, you want to make sure that a drawing or logo is clearly drawn and not a photocopy. That's a mess. And make sure again that the original is large enough. So again, make sure that your resolution's okay, that you zoom in and crop where you need to, and that you save the proper format. You should take your images and optimize in Photoshop and save in the appropriate format. Okay. So slicing in Illustrator and Photoshop. Slicing is used to chop up an image and optimize it for the web. And usually you um, chop it up into a grid-like um, table. And this creates separate images that can be made into GIF or JPEGs and compressed for a smaller file. And I'm going to show you how to do that. GIFs can have a transparent background. And once you have created your slices, you can attach a URL or address to the different images. You can create GIF and JPEGs with different optimizations and even have no longer Illustrator, but Photoshop will write your HTML coding for you, even with cascading style sheets if you wish. So image maps are hotspots that allow you to have a link to another place, like this. Now, the Universal Resource Locator, or URL, is your address, and it directs you either to another website or a folder name or a file name. Now, in your address, you have HTTP, which stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and www, which stands for World Wide Web. Now, Adobe has something called the target. And the target allows you to open a page in the same window or a new window. And it directs a link to a specific frame. There's not a lot of designing anymore for frames, but it used to be quite popular. So you could have this be static and this be static and have all your new information target into the main frame. Now the alt text is like a screen tip. And you enter this, and when you go over to the link, it comes up looking like a screen tip. The purpose of the alt text is for browsers who speak, and they read the alt text and speak it. And this is good for the blind. And if you're doing a commercial site where you want everybody to be able to read it or navigate it, you'll use alt text. There's also the status bar text, which in Adobe is called the message, and it tells something about the link or where it's going. All right, that's it, and our next presentation is going to be on color. Bye.